What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Inside Texas Football, powered by InsideTexas.com. This is the deep dive. I'm Paul. That's Ian. And we are going to answer a bunch of questions that were submitted to us on InsideTexas.com. What's InsideTexas.com? Well, be glad that I included the .com part, just like a boomer does. Inside Texas is the premier Longhorn community where you can talk about every Longhorn sport, find out about basketball, who we might be hiring, find out how the Longhorn baseball team is off to a meteoric start. And of course, we want to talk Texas football as well as everything else. This is the place to be for the best Longhorn conversation. And this here YouTube channel is the best place for the deep dive conversation that Ian and I excel and love to do with all of you. Make sure you like this. Make sure you subscribe. Let us know in the comments what you think, and hopefully we address all of your questions. So Ian, without any further ado, I'm going to read a question and I'm going to pitch it to you. All right?
Let's do it.
What do you expect the O-line to be better at versus worse at next year? What's the ceiling and the floor of the team based on that? All right, let's handle the first part. I think we probably do think the ceiling and floor are going to be affected by our O-line play, as well as some other factors. What do you think these guys are going to be better at or worse at? We're replacing a ton of talent, a lot of experience.
I think if you look at the departing guys, you would say that the strength of nearly all of them was pass protection. So Kelvin Banks his strength was pretty much everything, but he's going to go in the first round because of pass protection at left tackle. Hayden Connor was a 3-year starter because of pass protection. Jake Majors was maybe a little more akin to Banks. He was like pretty good at a lot of things, really, but he was good in pass protection. Cameron Williams was probably still figuring that out, but not bad by any stretch of the imagination. And he's going to go higher than you would think because of his upside in pass protection. I don't think they're going to be able to be it's good there next year. Now that may not be apparent because I think Manning has better pocket presence than Quinn, and he also is just more likely to throw a ball up than eat a sack.
Yeah.
And both of those have an enormous impact on your sack totals. But even if the pass protection looks better next year, it's hard for me to believe that it actually will be.
Yeah, I attributed 12 to 15 sacks to Ewers last year.
It's like half of them.
Yeah, and that's not unusual. Your quarterback is often responsible for a sack, but I think he was inordinately so, and it's something we talked about, throughout the year. So, do you think they'll be better at run blocking, or do you think it'll be comparable?
I think they're going to be better. I think that there's some things to work out there, who even the lineup is. But, like, the guys that are going to be involved, like Gooseby, Campbell, Hudson, I think run blocking is a relative strength for them. If Neto gets involved, it's going to be – from what I've heard, run blocking is a plus and pass protection is a question mark. So if he's in the lineup, one more in that direction. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we're going to have a lineup question here later, so we'll get into that. But I actually think Gooseby is a negative as a run blocker right now. He's very tall, and he's not strong yet. So he has trouble getting low. If you see on short yardage situations where someone's covering him up, he doesn't get any push. 6'7", and he's not fully developed physically yet. So as he gets stronger, he'll get better at that. He'll also learn the trick that a lot of tackles learn, which is how to basically screen and turn someone out. And that creates a hole. A lot of your push and a lot of the classic push that we like in the run game is going to come from your triangle inside, your centers, your 2 guards flanking them. That's a lot of your push. But hey, philosophically, sometimes Arkansas lines up Jason Peters at tight end, and they get a push there as well. That's another way to run the ball. But I think the way we're going to be able to tell is that center guard triangle. I think we're going to see that. What's the ceiling and the floor of the team based on that?
I don't think it's going to be necessarily an O-line driven team next year. They do need to be better in short yardage. That's going to set a huge barometer on the ceiling, right? The barometer.
They're on the ceiling. That's a hard barometer to check.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I'm assuming some level of competency because they honestly patched together a decent effort in 2022 against Alabama without a ton of talent and ran the ball with Bijan for 1,500 yards or something. So I think schematically and with Flood's teaching, they're gonna meet a certain threshold. I don't know if it'll be like a nationwide strength, but I think it could at least be like what Ohio State achieved in the playoffs,
So I think it'll play out as a ceiling, not as much in the regular season, although you'll certainly see it. Is it worth a win, whether these guys really hit or not during the regular season? Probably. More likely, it will tell us the distance we go in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I don't see the dominant offensive line in college football this year. I just don't see it right now. So I think you're going to see some defenses have their say in the playoffs, particularly. They certainly did last year.
Maybe Notre Dame. Did they retain their coach?
Yeah, they'll be better on the O-line. I think that they look like they'll be pretty good. We'll see. All right, next question. Assuming no further portal additions, what do you project to be the best two deep across the O-line to start the season? So if you want, Ian, I'll take a shot at the one deep. If you disagree, cool. Then maybe you can tell me what you think about the two deep.
All right, go ahead.
All right, left tackle, I think Trevor Gooseby. He's going to be starting. He's going to be a redshirt sophomore, and he's going to get a lot stronger this offseason. I think you're going to see him flourish. And he gave us some good snaps last year, frankly. Big NATO, Umeozulu. He's a junior. He's grown into his body. He's a big nasty. He's strong. He's got natural burst off the ball that we didn't have in Hayden Connor with respect to the run game. As Ian said, the question is pass protection. You don't like having that question on an interior offensive lineman. And I think it's assignment-based, not so much that he's getting beat.
Yeah.
Center, Cole Hudson. I think he makes the switch to center full-time. Is there a chance that he'll have some competition? Maybe. We're looking for the best five lineup, and we know Cole Hudson can play guard capably. I love Cole Hudson as a center. So I think that would be a good move. Right guard, DJ Campbell. I think he was right to come back. He's a senior, and he needs to show out. He needs to move people, and he needs to be a little more consistent as a pass protector. I thought he improved considerably last year. He needs to take another step before he goes to the NFL. And then finally, big Brandon Baker, sophomore. I think he's going to be the right tackle. I think he's going to hold it down. I think he's going to beat out Andre Kojo. What do you think about the second team, Ian?
Well, I think you just laid out the best case starting lineup.
Yeah.
That's what we want to happen. And there's a chance that Connor Robertson takes center, either because Hudson doesn't adjust well to it or because he's needed at left guard.
Yep.
And then there's a chance that Kojo beats Baker for right tackle, which I'd say is probably weaker than the chance of Robertson at center.
Yeah.
Robertson at center, I think that one's fine. I don't think that's if Hudson was going to be an NFL center, that's not good if he's not translating there. So that's an opportunity cost. But I think Robertson will be a good player there if he wins that job. And then that's Robertson is your second team center if there's an injury. I don't think they would cross-train anybody else that heavily.
They also have Cruz.
And they also have Cruz.
Who they like.
Kojo is probably your third tackle. I don't know if they have anybody else that would really actually play in a game if somebody was hurt. There's the two deep, and then there's the who actually plays.
Yeah. There's the official depth chart, and there's actually the guy that comes in if someone's hurt.
Yeah. So I'm thinking Robertson, Kojo, and then Neto if he doesn't get a starting job, but maybe I'm just glancing at the roster.
Kibble and Chapman.
I was going to say Kibble, and I needed to check.
Yeah, I think Kibble and Chapman are going to play a role. I've liked Jaden Chapman in some limited snaps I've seen him. I think he's got the ability. I think they need to get the focus part. And people forget this is just a third-year player. And with the offensive line, some of these guys, they age like wine, right? They need that fifth, sixth year. Jake Majors really took off in his last 2 years at Texas.
Yeah.
So I think that's it. I think that's what we're looking at. Malik Agbo, I don't know what the deal is. I don't know. He looks like he might be getting supplanted, or maybe he needs to gain some weight back. I don't know what's going on with him.
He may also just be one of your main tight ends,
I guess.
Yeah, Chapman too. I think did some of that right last year.
Yeah,
that might be an indicator that he's ahead of Kibble. That they're like, let's get him on the field in this role.
Yeah, I think Kibble's going to be good. He's a redshirt freshman now. I think he's a guy who looks like he's going to be good. He has some good stuff going on with that guy. All right, let's go to the next question. What will it take for the offensive coaches to successfully implement a gap or inside zone scheme this offseason, avoiding the failed outside zone against top defenses? All right, Ian. It's probably some assumptions built into this. We kind of run everything, but we did try to favor the outside zone scheme, sometimes very successfully, as against A&M and Clemson, sometimes not so successfully, as against Arizona State. What do you think?
I think maybe the missed truth behind last year was that outside zone was the highest upside scheme they could run with that 5-man lineup. Because Campbell, Banks, and Williams could all theoretically do anything, but they were good at outside zone. You'd see like Cameron Williams make reach blocks on the backside of outside zone that were unbelievable.
Yeah, he was devastating in some games.
Yeah, and then Connor and Majors were good at outside zone, and then often not very good at other things.
Yeah, I think Connor, traditionally, one of the best pass protecting guards I've ever seen play at Texas, really struggled with displacing people off the ball. And that's something you need. If you're going to run gap schemes, your guys have to get some movement. You can't screen people. So that's kind of part of this. So, it's been said that Sark, some of his inside zone marries better to play action in the pocket. But I think with Arch, outside zone marries pretty well, right? I mean, the traditional constraint of a mobile quarterback is on the backside of outside zone. They can do a little sprint out, and your defensive end better stay home, or he's going to get either a wide open throw where he can just stand and survey, or he can just take off, scamper for 10 yards, run out of bounds, right?
Yeah. Peyton was in an outside zone scheme for a lot of his career in the NFL, but probably mostly all of it. Arch unlocks a few things. I think they will probably lean more on inside zone this year.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not going to ditch. They've always been an outside zone. They've kept it when they can. The only year they didn't really run it that much was the 2022 team, where it was like all freshmen, and they could not get the exchanges and trades right. So they'll probably lean more on gap and inside zone this year, but this is largely about maximizing the personnel.
Well, and to be clear, in 2022, our instruction was we're going to block it inside zone, but take the guy where he wants to go, and Bijan will make it right. Just stay on your block. And I don't think we have a back who can make it right this year. We're going to see.
Yeah, they'll have to block it the right way.
Yeah, got to block it better. Jarrett Gibson, I think the coaches like him. If he can hold onto the ball and figure some stuff out in pass pro, stuff like that, I think he's a guy that we might see more gap schemes with, because he is very much a downhill, no nonsense runner, and that can translate to other schemes as well. But gap schemes like that. So we'll see. I think it'll depend. I think one thing, maybe not to speak for you, Ian, but we seem to minor in a lot of run schemes.
Yeah.
And it would be probably better to be major in one of them.
That's my preference in college. That's not how Sark and Flood see it at all. They also, the one that the one that is frustrating looking back on is that occasionally they would run like those man sweeps where they would like pull majors or a guard.
Yeah.
And those were, if they could have majored in that, they would have been devastating. Except when they played the better teams, their tight ends could not win the point that you're pulling around, and it would just blow things up before it could even get started.
Yeah, there was a nice time to be a tight end in college football back when the Eric Strikers were on defense.
Yeah.
And they were putting super quick edge players who weighed 225, 30 out there. And your tight end is like, oh, I can handle this guy.
Yeah.
But people have said, nah, we're going to put Barron Sorrell on your tight end, and he's going to throw him into the backfield. and that's not great. So
that was a Big 12 thing too.
That's right. Well, whether you are when you're buying a house, whether you're majoring or minoring in getting the best deal, you want to go with the major asset, and that's Gabe Winslow. You can reach him at 832-557-1095. Gabe is fantastic at what he does. We have tons of great reviews proving it, and he is willing to help anyone who picks up the phone and calls him. Are you looking for a house? Great, call Gabe. Looking to refi? Great, call Gabe. Are you not in the great state of Texas and you want some help? He can still help you out. He's licensed in other states, or he can just help you with your mortgage because he's a good guy. Why would he do that? What do I have to pay him? Do I have to Venmo him some money? No, he's just a cool guy. It'll help you out because you're a Longhorn. All he wants you to do is write a nice review because he helped you out. How's that for a deal? Give him a call. This guy's the best. He will pilot you and help lead everything in what is the most important financial decision all of us make in our life: buying our house. Call him, 832-557-1095. All right, we're keeping up our offensive line theme here, Ian. I'm noticing a theme: the running game and O-line. When will we be able to speak? When will we be able to run the dive, deep or not, against the top tier opponent for positive yardage? All right, I like the deep dive reference. That's why we had to read it. All right, did we have the ability to run a dive against the top tier opponent for positive yardage?
Not really. Yeah. They would, Sark invented some of those weird formations. They would end up just being like a off tackle dive to Jarrett Gibson.
Yeah.
It's like, which running back's going to get the ball? There's three of them. You don't know. And then it would always be Jarrett Gibson.
The old diamond eye.
I think this comes back.
This question, I would say we actually were okay on traditional short yardage. Where we really struggled was near the goal line, particularly as the year went on. Early in the year, we were great. I mean, we ran the ball in the goal line against Michigan, and they got a bunch of guys who will get their names called early, right?
Yeah.
But when were we able to run a dive on the goal line for positive yardage?
I think
we all did that Ohio State sequence.
There's like two or three ways that can happen. One would be like your vision comes true, and the line is like Neto, Hudson, Campbell inside.
Yep.
And you just get way different push up the middle. That'd be probably plan A, right? Maybe leave somebody unblocked for Arch to read on the perimeter and just introduce some hesitation and across the entire defense about where they need to be inserting on those plays.
Yep.
That would help a lot. If they had a fullback, that would help. Again, one of these like young tight ends can be a fullback in those situations, or they can convert that walk on into one. Blanking on his name, the Lovejoy kid. Riley Bake? No, I don't know. Any of those would help.
Agreed. All right, next question. What sets top rushing offenses like Penn State, Notre Dame, and Tennessee apart from Texas? Despite having an elite O-line and solid running backs last year, why do we struggle so much in the run game? All right, I'll take a hack at this first, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
All right, one thing all three of those teams had in common is they didn't have solid running backs. They had outstanding running backs.
Yeah.
Notre Dame arguably had the best running back combo in the country, if not for Penn State. And Tennessee's starting running back was phenomenal.
Yeah.
That guy was great. Also, there's some schematic stuff. There's also some teaching stuff and maybe some culture stuff. Notre Dame had a very important run constraint at quarterback, Riley Leonard. You are not going to fire your backside defensive end into the, expecting a dive when Riley Leonard is lined up behind center. Because he can grab that ball and take off and get, legitimate yards, right? He can punish you for that.
Ditto the off-ball linebackers. They don't have to wait and see if they're needed on the backside or not.
You got to stand and watch. You can't just go attack. And if you're standing and watching and you've got good running backs, you're already ahead of the game. Penn State, Andy Kotelnicki, very good schematically in the run game. And as we said, really good running backs. I mean, it's funny when you watch the Penn State running backs because they're so agile and mobile, you're watching them and you think they're 200 pounds. Those guys are 225, 230. And they finish their runs. So Kotelnicki was great at scheming that up. And Drew Allar, not a statue. And they were not afraid of running that guy when they needed to. Yep. Tennessee, Ian, I think this has to do with classic Ian Boyd stuff. I'll let you take over. Why would Tennessee have a bunch of big running lanes in their offense?
They run the veer and shoot.
That's it.
I believe they even played Andre Karich at guard.
Yeah, he's their starting guard.
Yeah. It's not – those other two teams, I would say, probably had better interior line personnel than Texas last year. Definitely Notre Dame in terms of run blocking.
Notre Dame, yes. I really don't know about Penn State. And actually, one of the critiques of Penn State before Kotelnicki is their inability to run the ball. So
he got them to major in outside zone.
Yep.
And they were very, very good at it. That was the same thing he'd done in Kansas with Leipold and at Buffalo with Leipold. Very proficient in running outside zone and building college offense around it. Tennessee, they got the wide splits. The receivers are way out there. They had also a run for at quarterback and Nico Iamaleava. Did I get that right?
Close enough. That's pretty good.
Enough. And Texas ran the veer and shoot with freshman Shane Buechele.
Deontay Foreman.
Two good offensive linemen. The wide splits, and Deontay Foreman ran for 2,000 yards.
That's exactly right. And Dylan Sampson is legitimately really good.
It's very hard to stop the run against that scheme. And it
became very apparent that Nico Iamaleava could not handle two safeties deep. So teams sort of would just say, hey, Tennessee, Dylan Sampson can get his. We think you're going to throw for 130 yards against our defense. And that's exactly what happened. And then when they played a really good defense like Ohio State, they wrecked every aspect of the Tennessee offense. I mean, that was an embarrassing performance if you watch that game. Ohio State just humiliated them. So that is the answer. They have better running backs. Two of them have, I think, good scheme and a good quarterback who can run as a constraint. Notre Dame, I think we agree, had better interior run blocking personnel. Tennessee, it's all scheme. It's all scheme, baby. Baylor had really successful running backs back in the day, and those guys weren't NFL players.
Linwood.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, so yeah, that's the deal. And ultimately, there's some things we can do schematically to help. But, remember that rushing success, while appealing, is not the end-all and be-all of offensive success. Tennessee was not a very good offense, despite the fact that Dylan Sampson ran for a bunch of yards.
We also have to add in Texas took a third or fourth string running back in special teams star and turned them into a 1,000-yard back.
Yeah.
So the Texas O-line did pretty darn good last year. Quinn Ewers and Sark's passing game do untold wonders for Texas's running backs by creating space, kind of like the veer and shoot. We have not even seen what it would be like if this team had the deep threat passing and better interior linemen and an NFL running back. And then if Arch is also something to think about, like Texas has a lot of extra gears to hit. So
agreed. Well, hey, that's a great segue to this question, Ian.
Oh, good. Something else next.
Given NFL attrition, do you expect the offense to be better or worse next year?
Whenever I look at the personnel and the roster and all the question marks,
you would think.
I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think so. And then I talk about it, the synergy they're going to get next year. And I'm like, you know what? They might be a lot better.
Well, and also in the question, it says, given NFL attrition. He didn't write, given last year's production.
Yeah.
Because those are two very different things. I would argue, I think you could argue reasonably, that we underachieved on offense last year.
Yeah. Last 2 years, really. I mean, definitely. They're rolling out first and second round receivers every single year.
Yeah.
And they're not scoring 40 points a game.
Yeah. So given NFL attrition, I'm not sure that that's the linchpin. I think it may be that a different mix of personnel and a different combination of strengths may actually result in at least a comparable offense.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it gets worse. What do you think?
Right now, I'm thinking it's going to get meaningfully better. Tomorrow or in a few weeks, we'll hear about some lineman that got injured, and I'll be like, I don't know.
Yeah. Also, it'd be nice to see a spring game and test some of our assumptions.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like you really want to see Wingo get his release right and get to the spots on the field where he's supposed to be. If you just see that and you told me he's going to be healthy next year, then I already feel pretty good.
Also, how much is the Sark lull, like the fast start and then the tail off? How much of that is Steve Sarkisian and some early good play calling and game planning? How much of that was our personnel?
Yeah.
We're going to find out.
You're going to find out.
You are. All right. Here's our lucky seventh and final question. What's your view of the go-to offensive personnel and formation strategy and key players featured in those groupings when we need a productive drive on the road against Florida and Georgia? All right. So what's our go-to personnel and go-to formation when we've got to get it done on the road at Florida, at Georgia?
You know, for the last couple of years, it's been like 12 personnel and running the ball, unless we can't run the ball. And then it's like 11 spread and throw to the running back. So, do you have an answer off the top of your head?
Arch Manning at quarterback.
Great.
Ryan Wingo should be on the field.
Uh-huh.
We should have an offensive line.
Let's say like Texas needs points, right?
Yeah.
Not they're sitting on a 2 to 5 point lead. They need to drain clock or whatever, but like they actually need to get down the field and score.
That's interesting. I wonder, honestly, Ian, we have these assumptions that, DeAndre Moore, I think, is going to play a factor. What we saw from Jeremiah Smith, what we saw from so many different freshmen, increasingly freshmen are coming ready to play.
Uh-huh.
Is it crazy to think Khalil Lockett goes out there and crushes it?
No. I think the only problem with that is...
Or Jamie French. I'm not just picking one guy.
French or Lockett, yeah. Or McCutcheon, even, from some of the things we've heard.
Sure.
I think probably the bigger obstacle to that is less where they're at coming out of high school and more Parker Livingstone and transfer
Aaron Butler.
player. Yeah, Aaron Butler or like a transfer portal addition after the spring window.
Yeah.
I think in general, I'm going to say spread personnel and then Wisner in the backfield for his pass protection and check
Yeah,
down.
probably 11 personnel with Wisner.
Yeah, and Jordan Washington or whoever, unless they added another skilled receiver tight end in the portal.
Yeah, and then just throw it around.
They actually, I mean, they didn't really do this last year when he was in the game. The last spring game, Arch Manning was doing like a lot of legitimate progression passing drop back stuff.
Yeah.
Spread, and looked like a Manning doing it. And that's anybody's favorite go-to if you need points, if you can actually do it.
Another thing to look for, because I don't think two deep safeties is going away in college football. I think a lot of people are going to do a study this offseason and say, what were the best defenses doing? Notre Dame, interestingly, ran a lot of cover one.
Yeah.
When they played Ohio State, they got a lot more respect and backed everybody off, right?
And they weren't good at it.
I think with Arch, I think we've grown accustomed to quarterback scrambles around the edge, like a defensive end overruns and you slip out around the edge and you run out of bounds. I think you're going to see a lot of Arch standing strong in the pocket, letting guys fly by, and then taking off right up the gut. And he did it some in the last spring game, if you recall. Because he wants to throw the ball and he'll stand strong in the pocket. And typically guys who will advance in the pocket or move side to side, but not try to leak around, they get opportunities to run. And if there's two safeties deep, often your linebackers have already dropped into zone and there's this nice fat open part of the field. Now that we got to teach Arch to like get down because there's going to be a lot of people converging on him in the middle of the field. But I think you're going to see a lot of that. And I think that's going to be a huge pain in the ass to like a Georgia.
Yes, obviously Georgia.
Yes. And that's something that we probably don't want to underestimate. And then once teams have to adjust for that or assign someone to him, that opens up things in the passing game.
And the check down too.
And the checkdowns.
Something extremely encouraging last SEC Media Days was someone asked Quinn Ewers about sliding. And he said, well, you kind of want to dive. And he'd obviously been taught that. Like, diving is actually safer. If you slide, you're kind of giving up your underbelly. And I was like, touchdown.
Yeah.
Thank God, Texas staff is teaching your quarterbacks that.
Also, when you slide, think about even a traditional baseball slide. Your legs are parallel to the ground. Your body's erect. Like, even as you start to, Ian, your body's up. Yes. Like you're presenting a surface for a cheap shot artist, right?
Yes.
It's actually, our producer is making us laugh. But it's actually, it does. I mean, I've done this, my little shtick on this before, but you want to dive. And in fact, you kind of want to dive at the defender's ankles.
Yeah. Throw your crown at his ankle.
He can't spear you. He can't get in a dirty shot. He's like, oh, well, he'll be ejected. He doesn't care. If he can take your quarterback out of the game, he's going to get some subtle high fives on the sideline from his team.
I think it's easier to go down on your own terms when you're diving than when you're sliding. It takes longer to initiate a slide than to just put your head down. And I think also if you're not only are you no longer exposing your freaking chin to a on the button pop like Dylan Gabriel, but if you put your head down and they try to lead with their helmet and they do hit your head, you're probably not going to get knocked out with somebody hitting the top of your helmet.
Well, and our producer points out that diving, you gain more ground, right? When you slide.
There's a million reasons why this is.
But here's the reality. That's all nonsense. Arch is going to hurdle everyone.
Of course.
That's what he should do. And we are going to hurdle on for the rest of our week and see you next week. This has been The Deep Dive. I'm Paul. That's Ian. Thank you so much for your questions. And if you want to submit some questions or just be a part of the best conversation on the Longhorn Internet, go join Inside Texas. But please, all of you, smash that like button and make sure you subscribe to this channel. Peace.